Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Coach's Corner on the Bridging Impact podcast. I'm your host, Coach Furtado, where we are passing the ball to the next generation of athletes, coaches, and parents. And in the Coach's Corner, I share the wisdom that I am learning from the week. I listened to a really great podcast that helped flip my mind and think about something in a way that I didn't realize is a big challenge for athletes. And one of the things that makes me incredibly frustrated, and I am guilty of doing this as well, and I'm trying to get better at not doing it, is saying, what is wrong with this generation of athletes? You've heard it before. You've heard it from parents saying, what's wrong with this generation of kids? But at the same time, if we want to teach empathy, if we want to teach just an ability to understand people and listen and empathy, we have to understand that when we were kids, even me, like I'm only 24 years old. I grew up, I had a smartphone in my first year of high school. I think I might have had I had an iPhone by the end of my time, maybe junior, senior year. I'm not sure. Social media was not where it was. When we were kids, we did not go through a pandemic where we got, especially here in California and on the West Coast in Oregon, that's what I can speak of. A lot of classes were canceled. Kids were at home. Kids' technology uses skyrocketed. And there wasn't quite the same social media. And that's from me. And I'm still I am a young coach, right? There are a lot of coaches out there that say, what's wrong with this generation of athletes? And that are like 40 and 50. And think about it. At that age, I was listening to a podcast by Stephen Mack, who I'm going to have on the podcast here in a few weeks. And I'm very excited for that. He talked about when he surveyed a ton of young athletes across the United States. We're talking in the cities and rural. And the biggest challenge that they had, they felt like they were always striving for something and never enough. Let that sink in. They're never enough. So if you think about it, the reason I give this context is because they are on social media. So I'm going to take myself, for example. When I was a player, let's use basketball for an example. I was always a bubble player, and I kind of knew my role, though. But think about this. If I start going on the internet and seeing all these kids playing, AAU, and, they're posting these videos, I'm going to start feeling like I am not enough because, I see, let's say 20 players on the internet I don't even know that I feel like are the same age of me, that are better than me, and all I'm seeing is their highlights, of course, right? And we're comparing, even myself, right? Like I have to be protective of the Bridging Impact brand. And maybe sometimes I'll post like a funny picture of like misses, but if I'm going to post a video of kids I'm training, I want to post the shots that they make, right? But that means we don't post all those hours and hours and hours under there of the missed shots, of the practices where you wake up and you're tired and when you're not at your best. And so this generation of athletes feels like they're always striving and they're never enough because they can look on the internet and they always see someone that's better than them. Always. So what can we do about that? There is one question we can ask consistently in our programs, with our kids, with our teams, that will help us recognize the progress we have made. What are you proud of? What are you proud of? And the first time you're going to ask this question, you're going to get looked at like, you have four eyes or, you have horns on your head, because as coaches and parents, and a lot of times teachers as well, we're always talking about what we can improve on. What more can we learn? What more can we learn? And the society is telling them that as well, social media. And so we have to look in the mirror and ask ourselves, what are we proud of? And maybe as coaches, we have to do that first and model it first. Hey, I'm proud of, one thing I need to work on for sure is not yelling at the refs as much as I used to when I was a player and then as a young coach. And now, I got a season coming up. So that's something I want to work on and I want to be proud of by the end of the season, that I am not a nuisance to the refs. And that's something that maybe I can share with my players. But as players, how we often get told what we need to work on, right? So thinking about what are you proud of, number one, you just have to ask that question. And not one time, and it doesn't have to be at every practice, But, I think a good time to do it is after a 3-game win streak. Sometimes it's even after a 2-game losing streak, right? What are you proud of, right? And so sometimes it is reading the room. Like, there's probably no right answer of when to do it, and you'll have to figure out when it works best for your kids in your program. But you need to do it, more than once, right? More than one time a season, because they have to take the opportunity to realize, like, I had another conversation with a dad the other day, and he was telling me how, like, it just feels like it's constant striving and no reward. Like, at the end of the day, a lot of these kids, and I don't even want to get into like full AAU and all of that, but a lot of these kids, like, it's never ending sport for them, and wins and losses it doesn't become a reward anymore. There's not enough rewards. What about creating those internal rewards for our athletes to recognize what they're proud of? Oh, I can make, I used to only be able to make 3 threes in a row, but now I can make 5. All right. That is, if you help articulate that for them, because that's my number 2 point. A lot of our athletes are not going to be able to do it, especially, like young boys. They feel like that's cheesy, and they shouldn't be, that's not something they always need to be getting better and better and better. And that's hard. But if you help articulate, hey, let's use this 3, for example, you make 5 threes in a row versus 3, that's 40% better. Now, if you make, 6 threes, that's going to be 100% better than where you were, let's say a month ago, 2 months ago. That means you're becoming a better player and starting to put it in specific and genuine and truthful. Like, then they can be like, okay, wow, I really am getting better, right? Because you get that personal connection with the coach. Versus, like, on the internet, they go and watch, not even Curry, but let's go watch, someone else that's on the internet that's around their age make 12 in a row. And they're like, oh, I got to get to 12, right? Instead of celebrating their wins and where they've gone there. So as a coach, we have to articulate to them what we're proud of, what we see from them. And another thing I used in the newsletter was, like, attitude wise, right? Like, a lot of times I see, kids, they'll shoot, they'll miss, they'll frown, put their head down, right? That's something you can work on. And then in a month or so, say, hey, look, I'm proud of you because you miss, you keep your head up, you get back on defense, and you focus on the next play. Because we're all going to make mistakes in life. And that's the purpose of sports, is to help them recognize their growth. That way they can recognize their growth in the classroom and at home and with their leadership and their relationships, like utilizing sport to teach these life skills and ask them what they're proud of, so they can ask themselves, hey, you got a 90% on that math test. That's the best score you've got all year, right? Recognize that instead of comparing themselves to the kid that math comes easy and it's always 95 to 99, right? We have to recognize and be proud of our accomplishments, which leads me to my last point of just encourage. We often get kind of, again, stuck in this cycle of always giving them feedback, and this is what you need to improve on, and this and that. And which is great. Like, you need that too, but it's not the only thing that exists. You need encouragement. They need to be told what they're proud of, what they're doing well, right? So it's like, you have to reward that behavior that you are seeing, and then teach the behavior that you don't want to see. So, let's say, hey, they're not making as many 3s in a row. What can we do? Hey, let's go look at your form. Let's teach, and let's break down a little bit. And honestly, if you see that their form is all right, then it might be up here. It might be mental training, and you might need to be like, what's going on up there? How can we improve this? So those are just little things that make a huge difference. And they see that coach, it has to be specific, it has to be genuine, and it has to be truthful. Because if it's not that, if it's like, oh, you're such a great shooter, and they can still only make 3 in a row, right? They're going to know that coach is BSing them, and they don't want that, or the parent is BSing them. They want it to be truthful, right? So hey, maybe sometimes you got to focus on certain things. Some players, I'm heavy on the basketball right now, but a lot of players, they're going to play. They're not going to be great offensive players, but they can get you rebounds. And then that's what you encourage them on, because that's what they contribute to the team, and giving them something to tie a positive identity to, but also reminding them that sports are not their full identity. And that is probably a whole nother episode in itself. So I appreciate y'all for listening to this episode. Comment below what you are proud of yourself and or your teammates, your team that you are coaching or leading. You could be a parent, whoever. And make sure you share this podcast with a friend. I feel like we need to be together and unite and help tell each other more what we're proud of. Go text someone what you're proud of them. There's always, room to grow. We're always works in progress. That's never going to not be true. But we have to recognize how far we have come and grown, and just bask in that. So make sure you subscribe to this podcast wherever you get it. Starting to add it on a few other feeds, but Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, best place to probably get it. And yeah, I will be in your ears and eyes always on Wednesdays. We post the Bridging Impact interviews with great, fantastic coaches. And on Friday, I share Coach's Corner, what I'm learning from the week. So again, I appreciate y'all, and I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day. Coach Furtado out.